Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I am proud to introduce you to Sergeant Dean Markuson, the CEO and founder of Foss and Swanson, the People Center, who attributes his success to his own core values: service, support, and recognition. Sergeant Markuson, it is such a pleasure to say hello to you today. So let me just get started today and ask you, what was your motivation in opening Foss and Swanson, the People Center?
My motivation to open Foss and Swanson is basically three things: service, support, and recognition of all people, and especially our service members, veterans, families, and youth.
Sergeant Markuson, what a wonderful, wonderful mission that is. And please allow me, on behalf of a grateful nation, to say thank you for your service. And I'd love to talk about the military service for a moment. Talk to me a little bit about what your experience was serving the country while being a member of the armed forces.
I joined the United States Army in 1970. I went to the war in Vietnam, serving as a personnel administration specialist. I then, upon my departure from Vietnam, I served in the CONUS, went to the Germany, served 2 tours over there. I returned back to the CONUS, and then served a tour in Korea for 20 years. And then I medically retired from the United States Army as they found me unfit for duty.
Sergeant Markuson, you talk a little bit about your military service, but when you decided to retire, you still wanted to keep some of those core values. And speaking of core values, what are the core values, the vision, and the mission of the People Center?
The mission of the People Center is to serve as a museum to preserve history of military stories and also some of the local community stories. Is also to serve as a fine arts center. I like to say we do it's kind of different. We deal with antiques. A research center where we research the stories of the veterans and the story behind the history in the community, and serve as humanitarian, which basically means you come to me with your troubles and I'll help you resolve them, not by physically doing the work, but getting you to the proper person that can do it for you.
That sounds like quite a bond. And my own father served in the military. Most of my uncles served in the military, and they have taught me about the close bond that military members share. Can you give us some examples of the time when that community gathered together to help another member in need?
I had a testimony this past month. A United States Marine Corps member came to me and said, "Dean, do you remember me 3 winters ago when I called you and I had no fuel in my propane tank to put heat in the house, and you were there for me and you got me?" You filled my tank with no reimbursement. Thank you. We're also serving a female disabled woman who had not basically came out of the house since the start of the virus in March.
Okay.
I go to her house and I mow do her property maintenance. I've also helped other property owners bring their property up to the city buildings and code standards so that they don't have to deal with the building inspector. That's the type of work we do in the community, in community service, because I would have to say the humanitarian portion is more important to me than all the other parts.
What a blessing that is, sir. And thank you so much again for your service. I also understand that the People Center is something of a historical museum. I think you alluded to that a little bit earlier. Tell me about some of the local culture that you've curated there.
Well, the first artifact that I received was from the historical building in Hastings called the Hudson Building, which is under total renovation today as a Caduceus Center, which is a business center in downtown business district. The plaque was on the flagpole. The company gave it to me to display in my building. I thought about it for a while. I said, Dean, that doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the rightful owner. So I returned it to its rightful owner, his son. And his son told me, Dean, I think my father will really appreciate this. The second one, we have a very fine lady in Hastings who used to be a world organization in office supplies. She's a powerful woman, and we recognize her as the Woman of the Year in the community. I went to her and said, please give me some of your materials so we can add it to the museum. Now, where did I get my idea for the museum? We had an attorney and lawyer here in Hastings that had a museum that nobody ever got to see. Well, I now have a museum basically with the library named after him.
And so that just goes to show you, well, when the community works together, what can be accomplished. So speaking of which, Sergeant Markuson, do you have plans to expand the services of the People Center?
We're expanding every day. As an example, we're all familiar with 9/11 and the Gulf War on terrorism, which kind of goes with the historical nature. On 9/11, we will celebrate the 20th anniversary to bring unity, healing, and resiliency within the community. And that's what's needed by the current era veterans, and for them to tell their stories so that they can be preserved for future generations so that they are not forgotten like our past veterans.
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, indeed. Sergeant Markuson, I'm just thinking as you are talking about the People Center, I'd love for you to talk to the audience just a bit about what the benefit is of having a place like the People Center in the community.
It is a place that the community can come to and know that they can get aid, assist, and be recognized as a person
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed.
without discrimination.
The humanitarian efforts that you all are making are just wonderful, and I want to congratulate you on that. Before we go, I'd love to know if there's one thing you would like the viewer, our audience, to walk away with today about the People Center and about your work.
What I'd like the people to walk away with is make sure when you see a service member, veteran, family member, or a child of a service member, say thank you for your service to our nations, states, counties, and communities. Thank you.
Sergeant Markuson, you could not have said it any better. It is one of my proudest things to say that my father served our country. It makes me extremely proud to say that my uncles served our country and two of my aunts served our country. And so I just want to thank you, as I said earlier, on behalf of a grateful nation and communities across our nation for your work, for your service, not just while you were in the military, but when you came out, and how you have passed that along to other veterans. Thank you again, sir.
You're welcome, Star.